If you've ever volunteered at a church or maybe you work at a church, chances are you know that most churches don't exactly have a massive budget for things like audiovisual. So pulling off something as complicated as a live stream can be something rather difficult, but today we're gonna do it for under $1,000. How's it going, everybody? My name's David. I'm the head video editor here at ReachRight, and we like to make content that helps out churches and nonprofits all the time. So if that's the kind of thing that you're interested in, make sure to hit that like button and then subscribe so that you're notified every single time that we release a video. Now, it's pretty common here on YouTube to do things like do X, Y, and Z for under this amount of money. But I don't really like those videos because they typically go at it with an approach of using whatever is around you or accessible to you, and they just assume that everybody has those same things. In terms of a church live stream, I've even seen videos on YouTube talking about how to do it for under $1,000, and the first thing they say is your camera is just going to be your cell phone. Not only do I feel like that's cheating, but I kind of feel like when I've worked in audiovisual at a church, I've always wanted to make sure that everybody has access to their personal cell phone for things like communication during the service or even just for emergencies. That being said, I'm putting this in the beginning of the video because we do actually get comments on our own videos from people saying, no, I want to do a live stream with nothing other than my cell phone and a tripod. What do you recommend? So firstly, if that's you, yes, you can do live streaming at your church with nothing other than a cell phone and a tripod. And then I would just suggest the one purchase of an external wireless microphone. This can either be something like the DJI wireless lav mics or the Rode wireless lav mics, and both of those are gonna come in just under $200, but one clips onto like the shirt collar of your pastor, and then the other end, like the receiver part of it, is actually going to clip into your phone. And so you'll at least get the really good audio of your pastor talking. That's the one thing I would recommend for you cell phone live streamers out there. But for everybody else trying to do this for under $1,000 without using your cell phone, let's talk about some really good options here. Now, disclaimer, you can consider this cheating if you want, but the one thing you will need that I'm assuming you already have is a computer that is going to be running your slides from. You are also going to be live streaming from this computer, but we're gonna talk about free software that can do that in a little bit. First things first, we're talking about the OBSBot Tail Air as our main camera. This is a PTZ camera, which stands for Pan, Tilt, Zoom. It gives you the capability to fully control it, turn left and right, actually zoom in and out on the pastor. It's great for people with really light budgets, and then also people that are really light on their audiovisual team that only have one person to control cameras. We actually have a video on this channel where I use it a little bit more in depth if you wanna check that out and you're curious, but you can actually control this from an app on your cell phone. As mentioned earlier though, I don't love people having to use their cell phone for the church service, and so you can also operate this off of the software that comes with the camera that would be on your PC or your Mac. Now, the next thing you'll need is a cable that actually runs from that camera. I'm including a 50-foot HDMI cable today. A couple things though, I would recommend going with something like a 20-foot HDMI cable or less if you can get away with it. Anything over 20 feet, usually you're gonna have a couple problems, but my church did it for a while and we just kind of had to work through the kinks. I know some of you guys are in a tight spot and need that length, so I'm including the 50-foot today. And this is actually one with a micro HDMI adapter with it to kind of pair with that OBSBot Tail Air. And this one comes in at $46. Now, the next thing on our list is technically optional, but I highly recommend getting this. This is going to be a video switcher. I'm going with the A10 Mini. The reason why I suggest getting a video switcher is this allows for multiple video inputs to go into it, and then you can switch between those for your live stream to see. So not only does it offer flexibility, but it actually does all of the heavy lifting for your computer, so you're not putting all of the stress of switching all these different video inputs and actually having to like render them in real time. It just helps the workload be taken off of the PC. So even though we only have the one camera today, getting the switcher will not only do the heavy lifting of multiple video devices, but if you do get additional cameras in the future, then you're set. If you want to skip it, you can connect the OBSBot Tail Air with USB-C and you're good to go. The next thing I recommend is also optional depending on your situation. This is going to be an audio mixer. I'm going with the Behringer Flow 8. This is an 8-channel USB audio mixer, and this is actually going to allow you to plug all of your instruments and microphones into it, mix that audio so it actually sounds nice and balanced, and then that entire mixer plugs into your computer. It goes for $179, and this really is a good deal, but if your church is like mine and you already have a soundboard or audio mixer that can do a separate mix going to your live stream, then you're covered there. You don't even need this. The next thing is small, but I'm adding it in here and it will come into play a little bit later. But don't forget to get an actual stand or tripod for your camera. I'm actually just going to include these light stands from Amazon. I found a 2-pack for $29, and remember, this is a PTZ camera, so all it needs to do is sit stationary and it can already like tilt and move around for you. These are a really good option. They're really small, they're really lightweight, they're not an eyesore. They're perfect for those cameras. And this is a 2-pack, so you have an extra one, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Now, the last thing I'm including in our necessary list that costs money is just a 6-foot HDMI cable for $7. Why am I including this? Well, we talked about how you need a PC, obviously, to plug all of this stuff into, and running from your PC that's running those slides for worship and scriptures, you're gonna wanna run an HDMI cable from your PC to your video switcher. Now you actually have 2 video signals in your video switcher you can switch between. So when the pastor is talking, you have video of them. And then when they bring up a scripture, you can switch to that scripture, taking up the whole screen. You can also do like the lower third that shows up while they're speaking and still have video of them, but that's gonna depend on your presentation software. And we cover more of that in this video. Let's move on. So we're still under budget, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but you have all this stuff. What do you actually do with it, and why is it all plugged into your computer? Well, to actually live stream and make sure you can display all of this and actually capture it, you're gonna use OBS. OBS is a free open broadcast software. This is available for both Mac and Windows, so you're covered there. But you actually add all of your sources into OBS, and this is where you compile what your live stream is going to look like. The reason I suggested things like a video switcher and an audio mixer, it just makes it so much easier to add these into OBS and just do all of this stuff externally and do the heavy lifting there, and OBS can handle it really well. You can technically kind of futz around with it and try to put a bunch of different sources into OBS and then switch between them in real time. I just don't think it's practical. This way, what you can do in OBS is just launch it. You'll add a video source. You'll add one video source as the video switcher, and then your audio source as the audio mixer, and boom, all of a sudden you just have 2 sources to worry about in OBS. From there, you just connect your church's Facebook page or your YouTube channel in the actual streaming settings of OBS, and you're good to go. So let's tally up the total and then talk about some optional add-ons. But really quick, if you're watching this and obviously care about what your live stream looks like, you want people to see your church service, you probably want them to be able to find and discover your church in the first place, right? Well, that's all gonna depend on your marketing efforts. And we actually have a free church marketing review, which is available in the description below. It's gonna take just a couple minutes. You'll answer a few short questions, get back an 100-point assessment. I highly recommend just checking that out really quick so you can see how your church measures up. Okay, so we're under budget. We'll talk about the optional add-ons, but really quick, just to cover it, we have the OBSBot Tail Air as our main camera. That's gonna be $499. We then have a 50-foot HDMI cable that has the micro HDMI adapter for $46. That's gonna run actually to our A10 Mini, which is our video switcher, and that's gonna come out to $195. And then we have our audio mixer, the Behringer Flow 8. That's gonna be $179. Other than that, we have the light stand, which is a 2-pack for $29. And we have that small HDMI cable that's a 6-footer for $7. I rounded all of this up, and we are still under budget, sitting at $955. So $45 doesn't give us a ton of room, but the number one thing I get asked is, why does our live stream not look good? We spent all this money on cameras and microphones and so on and so forth. Usually the answer is, it's your lighting. To do lighting properly in a church, it takes a ton of know-how and a lot of money. I'm just gonna be the first one to say that. Yes, you can do DIY, cheap, cool stage designs, but the actual lighting portion usually does take some cash. Even my church is in the situation where we really just have these big room lights that are meant to illuminate the room itself and not the actual subject on the stage. And I know a lot of churches are also in that boat, so this isn't gonna completely solve your problem, but one thing I would suggest as an optional add-on is doing something like adding accent lighting. And this 2-pack of these Govee light bars for just $49, they mount up against a flat surface behind your subject matter, and then they just add that accent lighting, which really just kinda adds a good look in person, but really, really pops out on something like a live stream. Alternatively, if your church isn't actually in a big building and you're doing something like this, this where you're talking to a camera and you're live streaming out of a room, you're gonna wanna actually still make sure that you light your subject properly. I have a key light here, I have a ring light here, a big window here, and then one light that's even visible in the camera behind me. It really does make a big difference. And so for that, I'm suggesting this 2-pack of LED lights, which by the way, you can actually add on and secure onto those light stands that I talked about earlier. So if you went with either of those options, it would put you over our $1,000 budget by just $5. But one other optional add-on that I do want to talk about is going to make your life maybe just a little bit easier. It's a remote for the OBSBot Tail Air. You can buy this as a package deal when you get the camera, and it's really just a $79 difference. So that's going to make it a little bit easier than trying to use the software for free on the computer. It's going to make just a little bit more of an enjoyable experience. And if you do that and you get one of these lighting options, you're still coming in at just $84 over budget, which I think is pretty good. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful, but if you're a little confused about OBS still and how to use it, we have the perfect video for you.